Wonderful. Welcome back to the Hype Mind. I'm on with Dan, and I'm Drew. And today we have a very special guest. We have Mrs. Smith on today. And Mrs. Smith is a Catholic life coach. And so, why don't you start by sharing a little bit about yourself?
Okay, great. So I am a Catholic life coach. I went to school at Holy Apostles for my master's degree in pastoral counseling. But technically, I cannot call myself a counselor, even though my degree is in that, because in the United States, you have to be licensed to call yourself a counselor or a therapist. But we can call ourselves coaches because life coaches, health coaches, whatever, financial coaches, you don't need a specific degree or licensure. So yes, so I just graduated with my master's this year and I started my practice a few weeks later. And already I have people coming to see me because there is such an immense need for direction, support, guidance. And I won't say just really mental health because mental health is such a broad term. It's really includes emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, all of that is included. And all of that, if your emotional health, actually, a lot of mental illnesses really are more emotional or derive from emotional and relational situations. So, it's all together. You can't really just separate. And I think maybe that's one of the biggest issues with the mental health industry, institute, practice, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
It's the biggest problem because they really focus on these mental health issues and they cut off the physical. The physical is really important. They cut off the emotional and the spiritual. And human
Right.
beings are
Sometimes
of all
they're only
four.
symptoms.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Let me
I,
ask you this. Before we get into that, you mentioned your schooling. You said how many years did you say you've gone to Holy Apostle? Is that correct?
Yes, I went to Holy Apostles.
For how many years?
I went for 6 years to get my master's. It was a very
Wow.
gradual process. Basically, most people take 2 years for their master's, and Holy Apostles now has a limit of 6. They used to actually allow people to go. I know somebody who took 9 years, but the length is not really what's important, and especially for working in the fields of helping people emotionally, relationally, mentally. I
Right.
think it's not good to do it quickly. I, I,
Right.
I mean, other experts say similar things because we have to grow into that. We have to mature emotionally, spiritually, psychologically to actually be able to help other people. And if we get a master's in 2 years, it's like it's rush. And I've heard this from other people. You can't really internalize it. You can't really process all that information, taking several, courses a semester. Whereas the first 4 years, I only took 2 classes each year, one in the fall, one in the spring. And in the summer, I went and did my own research, read books that I didn't have time to do when I was doing the courses. So it was a very gradual progression. And it's actually the best for any growth, whether it's physical. You don't build your muscles up in 3 days. Your
right.
physical. You don't build your spiritual muscles, your emotional. You don't achieve emotional maturity or get rid of problems that you have in a few months.
Right. You
Everything
gotta allow yourself to absorb that information at your
takes.
own pace. Yeah. So what were a couple of a handful of the classes that you were required to take to be able to obtain this degree?
It involved a lot of marriage and family. There was one course called Marriage and Family, which was so great, in which we read really about what the Catholic Church, because I went to a Catholic college, I'm a Catholic life coach, so that is very much a part of my practice. However, later, if you want to ask me, yes, I will take people, and I have taken people who are not Catholic, and I can discuss how I do that. But at Holy Apostles, such a solid formation in our Catholic faith and how it relates to relationships, marriage, family relationships, love relationships, and how it relates to our relationship with ourselves, because we have to have a good relationship with ourselves And most people don't. Most people do not have a good sense of who they are, their identity. They don't have that. And we have to have a relationship with something greater than a human relationship. To not put it in Catholic terms, Jesus, Mary, but to put it in more of a broad term, which is what I believe the 12-step program does for addictions. It's like you have to have something over and above you that's going to help you. You can't rely on your own strength. Some psychologists, some life coaches who are not religious, that's really their focus. I can help you find the strength within yourself. And I don't agree with that. There could be some people who really have that strength, but as I've found, most people do not. It's like you have enough strength for this, this, and this, and then something hits you, and like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, what a great point. That makes me wonder what your opinion would be. You mentioned that most people don't have that good relationship with themselves. I can't say what it was like, living 50, 100, 150 years ago, but right now it's very evident, like you said, most people don't have that good relationship with themselves. Where do you think that stems from? Like what's the cause of that? And from your opinion, is there anything that you think really stands out that's been promoting that?
Yeah. Because people are relying on themselves. People are telling you, you can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. You can achieve whatever you want. And people are like, what do I want? Who am I? And they're looking within themselves and they're coming up with more questions than answers. Even outside of Christianity, even outside of the Judaism, even outside of organized religion, all peoples in the whole history of mankind always believed that there was something above them, whether it was the gods or this god or the river god or the sun god or the rain god. They all believed that there was something that was outside of them that was greater than them. All
Right.
throughout human history, look at it. All the different gods, all the different countries, nationalities, they all had some belief that they weren't the controller, the creator of their own lives, of their own world.
And
They
they
did
weren't
not.
number one.
And what?
And they weren't number one.
Exactly. So there was
They
always
weren't
some. Now, throughout that, you had a few people who were skeptics, but basically the vast majority all believed that. And even if they didn't quite believe it, they would still do the things because just in case, I'm wrong. But now people think there is no God. Science has proven, quote unquote, proven that there is no God. There's nothing beyond this world. And so people are totally confused because they're looking for the absolute wrong places. But the number one place where they're looking for is within themselves. They're trying to decide what life is all about, what their identity is all about by themselves. I'm going to decide who I am and what life means to me. I'm going to decide what reality is, which is what people are doing. And in the psychological field, this is really hard to say, but they're allowing their clients, their patients, to live in a lie that you can become a different person, or even, I'm sorry to have to say this, but I have this from somebody who's actually becoming a licensed therapist, that her supervisors, they even will support young people who think that they are animals.
We definitely live in quite a period of time. You mentioned the whole living in a lie, and unfortunately that seems like the present state of being for everything. Even going beyond therapy, when you look at healthcare and politics, and there's just so much corruption and dishonesty, and yeah, very, very sad, very realistic though, and very dangerous. One of my thoughts while you were sharing was the whole looking for something outside of yourself, right? And there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is the idea of having a purpose in life, which is basically acknowledging that you're there to like serve, which kind of goes hand in hand with a couple other things. Daniel and I were just talking about sharing life and how life was meant to be shared, which in my opinion is an acknowledgement of the importance of stepping outside of yourself, because you have to kind of step outside of yourself or look outside of yourself to be able to share life. You know, and then service. Most people understand that they're happy to serve, you know, to some degree, as long as you phrase it in a correct manner when you ask someone something like that. And so all of those things kind of they help bring about a consciousness of the importance of stepping outside of yourself and looking outside of yourself. And so I think a lot of people already know that. They just don't know they know that.
Yeah, deep down, everybody is given the truth. Deep down, every human being realizes that they are made for love. Why does everybody look for love? To share with somebody else. Why does everybody look for that? Because that's what we're made for. And all the issues and problems and challenges in life come from trying to seek that and being disappointed or doing the wrong thing yourself, from a variety of things. But
You know, that's a great, that right there. What a comforting and encouraging thing to hear, you know. If you don't know where you're at in life, just to be able to say I am made for love, and to be able to make that a habitual thing to remind yourself of if you're not sure where else to start. Is that, you know,
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
comfort can be found in that, and a lot of security and a lot of hope.
But actually, if there's nothing outside of you, it's despair. Because let's say somebody knows that they're made. We all know that. Deep down,
Right.
every human being knows that. Everyone who's reached the age of reason, even before that, but especially you reach the age of reason, you know certain truths. You can deny them. They can be taken out of you by the media, by education. But it's still there, because that's how we're created. But let's say you're created for love, and you try these situations, these relationships, and they fail. They disappoint you. You disappoint the other person. You don't want to disappoint them, but you end up disappointing people or hurting them or being confused about, well, I'm friends. And it's not even just in the romantic relationships. It's also with friendships, because, I don't know if this happens as much with guy friends, with men, but it certainly happens with women. Like, they'll be jealous because she's friends with that other person. I don't really like that other person. I want her to be my friend. And you have all of this going on. So if we know that we're made for love, and we strive to love, and then all these issues come up, what do we do?
Yeah. Well, I think it can go both ways. There definitely can be despair depending on where you're at. You know, if you know you're made for love and you're not fulfilling that, it's definitely despair. But if you didn't realize you were made for love, and this is kind of the message that first resonated with me, is if you didn't know you were made for love and you hear that, then you can find hope in that. And then hopefully you can actually start looking for where you're meant to fill, that
Okay.
love and allow that connection. But, the other important thing that you made me think of was a lot of people, because of what our culture teaches us, love is a relationship, and that's not always the truth. Love is service to others. Love is willing the good of another person, right? And it goes beyond just a relationship with someone, one partner, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah. Romantic. Love is relationship, period. But we've narrowed it down in the modern world. It's been narrowed down to love is a romantic relationship, and it has to involve sex. So when you have that, you've totally narrowed it down, and you've confused everything, because that is like the tiniest bit of what true love really is. True love encompasses so much more. It encompasses love for everybody, no matter who they are. And it also encompasses love for yourself and love for all of creation. Creation is beautiful. The stars, the sun, the moon, the trees, the rivers, all that is beautiful. And we should have a love for that.
Well, and what happens when you narrow it down to only one relationship? If it doesn't work out, then you don't have love. And that
Exactly.
automatically puts you in a place of despair. But
Ex-
Dan, did you have any questions or comments?
No, you guys, this is great. You guys keep, I do have a couple questions, but I'll get to them. So,
Okay.
but I love where you guys are going with, love and I, it just made me think of, it's like having acceptance for your own life, the people around you, even the environment, like you were mentioning the creation, right? Just having a love for creation just enables you to see the beauty in things, see the opportunity in things.
To be great.
When you don't, you're closed off to it.
Yeah, Dan, what you said was actually very insightful and very true. The word acceptance. How many people accept their lives, their own selves? How many people accept the people around them?
Yeah.
That's
realities.
That's reality, and it's huge. I was born a female. I don't know if I accept that. I was born with this family. I don't know if I accept them. You have all those memes too. If somebody is toxic in your life, cut them off, cut them off, cut them off. If that were really the way we're supposed to be, I think that by the time somebody's 30 or 40, they've cut everybody out of their lives because everybody's going to annoy them and be toxic to them at some point.
Right. Well, yeah, as humans, we all have flaws. Part of what makes us such a beautiful creature is that we can actually look beyond those and still love people beyond their flaws.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Right, because what happens when you struggle to wonder if you should accept something in your life and everybody else tells you not to accept it, then you end up with nothing. Because at the end of the day, you can find a problem everywhere if you look, and you can find something bad or negative everywhere if you look. But you can also do the same with positivity and goodness. If you choose to look for the good in people, you'll find that too. So if you cut off everybody, or if you fail to accept everything that isn't perfect in your life, well, you won't have much left because there's nothing that's perfect.
Yep.
I do have a question about, so you went through, a period of time of schooling and then coaching. Has anything like popped up where, you didn't expect during your coaching experience, or even like questions that came up that at first you had to struggle with?
Well, not very much. So it's it really is like I was made for this. It's just come so naturally to me. I needed the studies, I needed the research, I needed to have the background, the formation to know my faith to a deeper and better level. But basically, a lot of the things that I used to help people with are things that I've known just about my whole life. And it's really, I see it as common sense. I see it as the wisdom of the simple, the wisdom of peasants. And I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I was not born in the US. I was born in a small town in southern Italy. And when I was born there, it was still very backwards and primitive, such that almost nobody that I knew had a radio or a TV. Some people did have radio. We didn't have a TV or a radio. So until I came here with my family, till we immigrated, I never had a radio or a TV in the background till I was 5.5 years old. So that's already that's really unusual. That's weird because almost everybody, even people older than me, grew up with some noise in their background, noise here, noise there. I didn't. I grew up in silence as far as TV and radio, although there was, I had the sounds of the village. And actually, almost nobody had cars back then. I know it's like I'm going way back into prehistoric time, but almost nobody had cars there. So what I would hear from the window is the clip clop of the horses and the donkeys and people yelling out, good morning and things like that. So it's just very natural, a very natural environment instead of one that's unnatural because, the TV and the radio are unnatural. They're not coming firsthand from a person. They're coming from a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? So when people come to me, I can relate to almost anybody. Sometimes I have a hard time, like somebody who's going through a really difficult time, and I say one thing. And actually, this happened recently, and I was like, I don't know if I'm really getting through to this person. And then the last time we had a session, it was like, I did get through. And she said, what you told me about this and that really helped. And so I don't always know exactly what's going to help people. I try to get to know them where they're at and to see how best to help them. But basically, the very best way for me to help anybody is to show them that I have hope, that I have a purpose in life, and you can too.
Right. Hey, you portray that well. Like you see that, in the tone of your voice, your body language. I mean, I talked to you before, and you just see, how you said, this is where I'm meant to be. You betray that. Like you seem super comfortable in your own skin, super passionate when you talk. And I love it. It's great.
One of the things you said too was well, what you do when you share that is that hope, right? You share that you have hope in them, right? And that's so many people need people to believe in them. That's all they need is just that little belief from someone else, and they'll go do wonders with their
You're
life.
absolutely right.
And so to have that is so powerful, and a lot of people underestimate it or they forget about it, but that's such an incredible thing to say that, I just try to let people know I have hope for them is that could be it. That could be what pushes them over the edge, to do something great.
Yeah.
You're absolutely positively right. And as a matter of fact, oh my goodness, certain situations come up like that. I'm sure you've heard of it. There's more than one story where somebody's about to commit suicide and writes, if only one person smiles at me, if only one person acknowledges me, I won't do it.
Yeah.
You're seeking for that hope. They know it.
And that's where, you talked about living beyond ourselves. That's where we have the opportunity to give, to serve. Yeah.
To be hope for others.
And in giving and serving, in giving, we find meaning and purpose. And what happens is the more we give freely, because there's a way to give expecting something in return, even if it's just approval, even if it's just acceptance. And I'm saying, of course, there is a place for that, like we were talking about the hope, but that's just the beginning. We're supposed to get past that and not do things for approval. Little kids do that for approval. Little kids will, bring a little flower to their mom because they want approval, but we want to be mature. We want to mature past that. And we're going to do things because it's the right thing. And for those who believe in Christ, it's because Christ commands us to do that. He said himself, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. And if he did that, he wants us to follow his example. So, and in serving is really, we find our purpose, we find our joy. If we're really serving with a generous heart, everything we do for other people gives us more hope, more joy. And I call it spiritual wealth. I call it spiritual wealth because spiritual wealth, and as opposed to material wealth, the more you give away, the more you lose. You have $1 billion and you give away half of that, you've lost $500 million. But with spiritual wealth, the more you give, the more you get back. It multiplies, and it's not just adds. It doesn't just add. When material wealth, you subtract, but you don't add spiritual wealth. It's much greater than that. It multiplies
exponentially.
Yes.
Like all things, if you do even if you're going in the opposite direction of obtaining it, if you do something bad, it never just goes wrong. It goes really wrong. It also exponentially wrong. If you do something right, it exponentially grows also. Funny you mentioned the whole idea of spiritual wealth, because I was speaking to a gentleman the other day, and we were discussing religion because he had stepped away because of a very not good experience with his own upbringing with it. And I was just, we were talking about it, and I was like, look, you know, I don't think it matters if someone's agnostic or atheistic or religious of any sect at all. Most people believe in the golden rule, which is, you know, a Christian concept, to my knowledge, of, you know, treat others as you would want to be treated. And most people won't argue that. And, you know, right there, you already are acting out and supporting or encouraging an idea, a spiritual idea. It's deeper than just being spiritual, but it definitely starts there at a minimum, you know, if you can't acknowledge anything else to yourself. But that's a religious idea. And so, you know, for people who don't believe in you know, most people believe in physical reality, they believe in mental state, they believe in emotional state. But I think a lot of people struggle to believe in spiritual state, but a lot of times they're already acting it out without knowing it.
Yes, yes. When they talk about things that are unfair, unjust, that's really, you're talking of things that are deeper, that you can't measure, that you can't weigh. It's not scientific, it's philosophical, it's theological, the things that really matter. You can't measure love. How can you measure love? Because especially you can say when somebody's doing something kind for somebody. Okay, but what if somebody has to do something that is firm and tough with somebody out of love? How do you say that's love? And how do you measure it? The love was, you know, was this big, weighed this much? You can't do it. So the most important things in life are cannot be measured, cannot be weighed in scientific methods. You cannot use that. And when you're using the scientific method to find out if God really exists, well, he can't really exist because this, and that. You can't prove it. You can't prove it to me in the scientific way. Well, I would like to ask any scientist, prove to me your love. Prove to me the love that people say that they have for you. Prove it to me scientifically.
Well, we got to get her. You got to get out there on the front lines, huh? Oh
Yeah.
man, you could roast some people in their truths. But no, that's a great point. What a great point. Yep. You know, so many people can't acknowledge that, and they refuse to acknowledge that, and it's so in your face, you know, it's so, you can't deny its existence, but they do, because it's hard to accept the truth in many cases. But
And what you said about the golden rule, it is actually from the Gospel of St. Matthew. Do unto whatever you wish others to do unto you, do so unto them. This is the law and the prophets. That's the whole of God's law, is the golden rule. And you're right, people don't even know it's from the Bible, many people, but they have it within themselves. Everybody knows, if I do that to this person, that's not right. And they might do it anyway. But they really know when somebody does it to them, it's like, that wasn't right. I'm going to get them, you know, and it's like that was something wrong. So people do know the golden rule, but without society helping you to keep the golden rule, without society helping you to understand, because you can also, this, you know, we go on both sides. Some people don't do enough, but some people do too much, and that's also wrong.
right.
Yeah.
Sure.
So how does one know how much is the right amount? Because people who do too much, and I know a lot of people like that, then they say, well, so and so doesn't appreciate it, I'm going to stop doing it. They get resentful. Or the people who don't do very much, why should I? You know, they have this more arrogant attitude. But both are wrong. And how do we know how much to give? How do we know that when somebody is giving something to us and it's not what we expected or wanted, but it's as much as they can, how do we know to accept that?
I'm all ears.
Right. Yeah.
So
So
it's real.
I mean,
Yeah, sorry.
that's where
Well,
you use what's already within you, no. But
I think
We're-
that's where we've got to today.
We're gonna
The goal-
finish up in a second.
Okay.
You can finish your thought, but I have one more question after that.
Okay, so that's why we've gotten to the place we are today. The golden rule exists. It's within the heart of every human being. But how do we implement it? How do we use it in today's world when there's no direction?
Right.
Well,
Hey, that's the awesome thing about what you do is you're able to provide direction. So I have a question, and that's that is, if someone's seeking, a life coach, or someone doesn't know if they should, seek a life coach, what advice would you give them?
Well, I would say, first of all, many life coaches, as well as some counselors, offer a free session, either a phone session or a regular session. I offer a free first session. Come, get to know, tell me what your issues are, and I'll tell you if I can help you or not. If I can't help you, or if I can't help somebody, I'll just be honest and say, I don't think I can help you. Maybe I can direct you to somebody else, to a counselor, a therapist, or somebody else.
Great.
And what about for people who, they're not sure about going to a life coach, they'd rather approach it on their own, for lack of better words?
Yeah, they can look it up online. What does a life coach do? And there's so many resources online, both in written form and on YouTube. There's so much with life coaching, counseling, how to overcome anxiety, depression, all that stuff. There's so much on it. They could do it by themselves, but again, it's like what you said. People need somebody else. It's like this YouTube video is telling me I can do it. This YouTube video is giving me the direction, but it's not a human being.
Right,
It's
right.
not another human being who's looking at you or listening to you attentively and saying, yeah, I hear your situation. I think there's hope for you. It's not another human being, a one-on-one personal relationship where it's one human being telling another, yeah, there's hope. And I know how to get it.
It also gives some accountability and also skin in the game as well. Yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
what about people who want to reach out to you? If that's something you want to share, you're more than welcome to.
Absolutely. You can put, are you going to put this on YouTube or on the podcast? If you want, you can put my email address, the one that you used to provide the link for me. That's my email address. I don't normally give out my phone number because for my clients, they can contact me by email. This way, I'm not disturbing them by ringing their phone or, texting them or them for myself. So they can just use that if they'd like to reach me.
Terrific.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And what's the name of your coaching practice,
Oh.
and where are you located?
Yes, the name of my coaching practice is The Light Shines from St. John, the beloved apostle. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There is hope. There is light. So that's the name of my practice. And basically, most of my sessions are virtual for those who are in the area. Sometimes I'll meet them outside my home. And I can also take somebody in my home if they want that person-to-person relationship. But most of my clients are virtual.
Terrific. Wow, that's awesome. Well, what a great discussion on coaching and on human beings and where to start finding that meaning in life to help yourself and to ultimately help others. Did you have any final message you want to share with people? If you could share one thing to help people, what would you say?
I guess I would just repeat what we've said already is there is hope. Don't let anybody or anything ever tell you otherwise. There is hope for you in particular, for everybody in general. Amen.
Terrific. Terrific. Dan, anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thank you, Maria Smith.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Coach Smith, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you later.